welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. My name is Chris Ringler. I am the aforementioned Spooky Chris, and hey, welcome to my podcast. I am an author, a filmmaker, a very poor artist, and as you can hear, a podcaster. I figured, as we trundle through January, I would talk about video games for a few minutes. I am not. So it's funny. I have played video games since I was a little kid. So our first system as a little boy was an Atari 5200, which would make it mid 80s, and I had. It was the family console, but it was one of those things where it was the family console that I pretty much was the one that used. My sister is a little older and just was not, and never has been, into video games. My father begrudgingly kind of fell in love with Pac-Man and was a Pac-Man aficionado. But we had the 5200, and then we got an adapter to play Atari 2600 games. We eventually got a home computer, and again, against my father's wishes, I got games for it because he kept insisting, this is not for video games, this is not for games, it's for important stuff. And since those days, I had a Sega Genesis, I had a Sega Dreamcast, I had an Atari Lynx handheld, a Sega Game Gear handheld, I've had the 3DS, the Nintendo, different iterations of Nintendo handhelds, a Wii, a Switch, the Wii U, PlayStation, Xbox One now. Saying all of this, I'm not someone who has ever considered themselves a gamer. I consider gamers to be the super hardcore people who are very serious about it and very good at it, and kind of pathetically, the stereotype that is portrayed of someone in their basement kind of sweating and not bathing and pounding a lot of sugary energy drinks and just kind of living in filth because they are in the pursuit of gaming greatness. And that is a silly kind of imaginary vision of what these folks look like, but it's not what I consider myself. I am a casual gamer in my mind. But on saying that, I have to admit that I'm a little less casual than I think. I just finished Far Cry 6, bought it the day it came out, ended up accidentally, but buying the DLC, and played through it pretty consistently until I just beat it. Now, I'm someone who gets, I don't know if I'd ever say I'm attention deficit, or any of that, or hyperactive, but I get distracted and I get bored a lot of times playing games for too long. Like, I just need to kind of do something else. So this is not with, long game sessions, because I also, have a job, a wife, a child. I have other stuff going on. But I was hardcore playing that game, and it's funny because I never would have thought myself like a big fan of the Far Cry series, but I suddenly am. And I never would have considered myself a gamer, but I guess I kind of am. I'm just a different kind. I discovered the Far Cry games when I bought Far Cry Primal used. Far Cry is a series known for at least the last several entries as a first-person shooter, and you're basically playing part in a game that is trying to... you're kind of an outsider or rebel trying to take down a regime, a villainous regime, basically. I picked up Primal used, and it's still my favorite entry in the series. It was the thing they seem to do with Far Cry is when they build the game and build the game engine, they will build kind of another game on its back. You saw it with Far Cry 5, and then they did New Dawn, which was kind of set in the same world. I don't know what they'll do with Far Cry 6, but Primal was kind of the add-on, the plus one to Far Cry 4, I believe. But it's a fantastic game. It's essentially a caveman, and you're just kind of taking on all of these other tribes and stuff, and it's a super cool game. It's a really, really fun game. I begrudgingly fell in love with Part 6, the newest one. I really liked the last entry, which was about a cult. And it was funny, it got a lot of disdain and a lot of angst from people. It's interesting because all of these kind of things, like movies, games, music and stuff, it's so funny because fans will accept and forgive, and people who aren't fans are just very dismissive. Very dismissive of this game. From the things I've seen is us. We're the same. They haven't changed. It's the same thing over and over. Blah blah. It's like I get it, and I in many parts I agree. But that's part of why it's a series. Is each entry is different. But I mean, it's kind of like I remember distinctly a review I saw for a Korn album. And it was kind of bemoaning the fact that Korn it sounds just like another Korn album. It's like, well, that's their style. Very few bands change their style up and their MO and what they sing about that much. There's evolution, and I would argue that you can see it with a band like Korn. Any performer, you're going to see some kind of evolution. Now, some basically they hit on a sound and they're just like, that's it. That's all we do. We sing angry songs about angry people and do it angrily, whatever. And that's fine. Much like if you want to do love songs about love people, doing love things, i.e. Taylor Swift, then cool. Good for you. Like, it doesn't, I'm not a fan, but that doesn't mean that it's not speaking to someone. And the same thing can kind of be said about games or movies or anything. The Friday the 13th movies are all the same. Yeah, because it's a series. And to varying degrees, you speak to the fandom. Look when they did part 5 of Friday the 13th series. At the very heart of it, it is a different film. And it's become beloved because of that difference, but it's different. Jason Goes to Hell, super different than the rest of them. Loved and hated equally. And that's just how it is. I definitely am not a slave to my like and love of the Far Cry series, but I do like that there's different types of different styles you can beat it with. You can kind of beat the system, as it were, like outthink it. I like that there's so much in it to do. I finished the game, and once you and I've been disappointed with the last couple endings they've had with these games. With the main series, this was a really good ending. I was very surprised. It was really solid. Just like, wow, gut punch ending. And I love that once the game's over, you're basically, the world is open up, and it's insurrections. So basically, people that served the leader in the game are popping up, and you are going after them. And you don't have to, and it is not the easiest thing, because I was messing around with that. But that's cool, and it's cool that since it's an open world, you can just go around and finish stuff you didn't finish before. Just go around and fool around in there. There's DLC. Who knows what else they'll do on that engine? But it was a fun game. There was a lot to it. Now there's still petty stuff. It's a game that you can heal yourself, but it's a it's like a 10 to 20 second animation of you healing yourself and fixing yourself. And I have gotten killed so many times in battles when I'm trying to do that, and it's so. I appreciate the effort, but it's so petty, and there's nothing you can do to protect yourself, when in reality it'd be like, oh, I better stop pulling a nail out of my arm so I can run away or fight back and not let myself die. Or, and I've seen people complain about this, or just marvel, is you can shoot people with guns, pew, 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 and they'll fall down. You can shoot a dog, and they're all pretty much Rottweilers that you go against, because, you know, I guess that's just the go-to for these bad guys. You can shoot that like 10 times with a gun, and it's still gonna come after you, and it's crazy. like some of the animal takedown stuff is just very weird. I don't necessarily understand it. I like the weird stuff they do with the game. I wish this game had more weirdness. Part 4 was pretty cool because it had you were kind of on, you were backtracking along the path of a serial killer, which that's kind of something they did in Red Dead 2, is something similar. But it was a really fun game, solid game if you're into that stuff. And it's funny because, again, I don't consider myself a gamer, but I adored that game. I adored Red Dead Redemption games. I love Breath of the Wild. I'd never played a Zelda game before, and I adore it. It's an absolutely gorgeous, fun game. And I'm saying this as someone who had to tap out because, like, I've played it probably, I don't know, 30, 40 hours, and you don't have to go at the bosses. You can go at the bosses right away. You can go right after them. Or you can just kind of keep doing what I'm doing and tracking down weird stuff and collectibles and the weird side stories that don't mean anything to the plot necessarily. And do all of that before getting to it. And I'd gotten to the bosses and I was like, oh, yeah, they're going to kick my butt. So I'm going to go backwards and I'm going to take a time off. But I just, I'm a casual gamer that I don't invest as much time as some people, but I love them. And it's weird the culture of games, because I remember, again, like as a kid, like it was kind of this niche thing. It was just kids did it, and it wasn't respectable. And then the arcade culture kind of popped up, and I remember arcade culture, and you would just, I remember distinctly, trying to think, it wasn't Street Fighter, it was, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of them. Oh gosh, there was another series, and I can't think of the darn name of it, but, it was along the lines of Street Fighter, but it was another series that came up. I remember Mortal Kombat came out, and then they started doing, started doing the friendships and the brutalities and the all of those like different kill kind of modes, and people would just like love to try to figure out what those were. And this other series, and shame on me, I can't think of it. It's another fighting series, but it was cool because they had new fighters that would hit every X amount of days or weeks. And I remember people just like, be two people playing, and then someone would put a quarter on the thing, like saying they got next. And it was an interesting, fun time in arcades and arcade culture. And you still find arcades, and they're still great. Just arcade culture isn't there as much. We're more of I know I prefer to play by myself. I don't look to play multiplayer or any of that stuff. I'm a solo gamer. And it's a bummer because it's almost like they're trying to force everything into multiplayer online. And I get it, there's a lot of interest, and there's a lot of those games that are big, but there's a lot of folks still like me that just want to do what I want to do at my pace and don't want to fool with it. My wife and I both kind of dipped our toes into Fortnite for a second. I had a curiosity, and you can download it for free for the Switch. And it was just ridiculous. It was kind of fun, but it was ridiculous because having teenagers yelling at you because you're not doing something that they want. And I'm like, girl, I'm not playing for you. I'm playing for me. Like, I don't care what you want me to do. Like, I don't even know you. So it's weird. I also came into it not knowing anything. I still don't know what the heck Fortnite's. It's last man standing, but whatever. It's just not my scene, those types of games. But I love that it's an option. I love how the broad variety of stuff out there. It's great. Again, as someone who grew up with games, I am the video game generation. I love how they've evolved. I love how there's games almost for everybody now, that we're seeing more voices, more stories being told. It's not just about shooters, because I know as many of those first-person shooters as I enjoy, I get tired of how many there are and how that was, over and over and over again. That's all you would see is just like, oh hey, I want to play a game where I'm just like a random tough guy, military bro, and gonna go kill a bunch of foreigners, kind of a thing. It's I like weird stuff. I played I think it's Outer Worlds, and that was great because it's a first-person shooter, but it's super strange, and it's a sci-fi one, and it was just a lot of weirdness to it, and I love that. It's a really, really fun game, and I like to see more variety. I've always liked kind of adventure games. I love games with secret stuff, which is funny because I never have gotten into the Mario games. I'm just very particular on the kind of adventure games. Like I loved. Medieval was great. Both the Medieval games were fantastic. I loved those. I loved, and I can't believe they haven't done more with that franchise in so long. I guess they're gonna release a remastered version of it, the first Medieval, which is a great, weird Tim Burton-y kind of horror adventure. But I loved the jeepers. We're digging deep into my memories here. I can't think of the name of the game. Ape Escape. I loved the Ape Escape games. Those are super fun. I don't know why they've never done more with that franchise. There's all of these kind of games, and I love those kind of games. Just like I love sports games, and I'm awful at sports games, but I love them. But it's nice to see variety. It's nice to see. Especially with indie games. Indie games is interesting because it's a lot like self-publishing and stuff in that kind of a world where you don't have to be part of a big corporation anymore. You don't have to be backed by tons of money and groupthink and all this stuff. You can see all these interesting, smaller games, kind of like Stardew Valley, which is just a really fun, really strange, deep game. I mean, it gives Animal Crossing a run for its money. I love Animal Crossing, but there are things that Stardew Valley does which are better than what Animal Crossing does. And then, Animal Crossing is kind of what it is. It has taken some pages from them, but Stardew was and it's a small little. I mean, it's essentially considered a one-man show almost. I don't know if it can't be just one person working on it, but it's a great game, and it shows you. And there's a bunch of these kind of indie games which have popped up, which are just really show that there's life on the fringe, and it doesn't always have to be some big title with 40 million plus put into it with Hollywood actors and all this stuff. And again, I love Far Cry, and that's a huge franchise. But everything doesn't have to be that. It's kind of, I mean, you can liken it to movies. Yeah, it's great. I love Marvel movies. I love them. They're great. But I love going and seeing a movie like Hereditary, or, the small kind of takes you by surprise, like, oh, well, what's this? Because those are usually the things that stick with you more. Because even as great as the big high-profile stuff is, the smaller ones tend to, because it's an individual kind of interest and storyteller, and it's a smaller group. You're getting more passion, and not a group think kind of story, and I really do appreciate that as a gamer. I mean, shame on me. I don't play enough of the indie stuff just because I'm not a very good gamer. Like, I'm good at a few of the types of games that I'm good at. Like, I'm pretty decent at Far Cry and a few other games, but I'm not great at a lot of games. I'm just not. But I think there's room for folks like me. It's a shame that so many toxic voices are out there, and you're seeing it in comics and movies, everything, politics and everything. It's all of these people who feel as if they're being marginalized because they have had their voices have been the ones everybody listened to. Like, they were the fanboys that were dictating culture and what games were going to be popular and all of that. And now that, women and people of color and people of, different backgrounds and sexualities and blah, blah, blah are getting more heavily involved into the culture of games. These folks that are, usually white young men, are frustrated and angry because they feel like their voice isn't heard, and that's far from the truth. Because it's funny. I mean, I don't care about the Final Fantasy games. Couldn't care any less about them, but that's fine. I don't they're not made for me. So my disinterest in them doesn't really have anything to do with anyone else. It's my disinterest, much like, I said before, I'm not someone who follows musicals. So, so me saying I don't like a musical, unless you value my opinion for some reason higher than someone else's, you can just kind of ignore me. Because I don't like that genre anyways. I don't like the Final Fantasy games. But if you're into those types of RPGs, well, then that's all that matters. And somebody likes it, then that's what you listen to. You listen to that person and what they have to say about it. And these idiot kids, essentially, because let's face it, even if they're adults, they're kids. And the hate and the vitriol and the fear is crazy to me. And it's a bummer because games are so fun and it's cool. And it's just like geekdom. It's cool that the umbrella has gotten big enough for more people to come underneath it. And it's a shame that these idiots, and again, you're seeing it with politics and everything else, it's a shame that these idiots feel like they are the culture stewards and they're going to push out anyone that isn't like them or doesn't want, busty, scantily clad heroines that are kind of lesbian, but they really want a strong man to show them what love is, and they're gonna blow up everything, but they're still hot. And, it's gross. And it's cool that we're getting more people's stories. Even if they don't speak to me, I don't care, because as someone who writes, I don't write stories for everybody. I don't write everybody's stories. I write stories I want to write, and I go into it understanding and knowing that that's the way it is. That not everybody's going to be into it. It's just a shame. But again, all of the geek culture is like that. You have in the horror stuff and horror games, you have all these idiots that are the guardians at the gate that are, you're not really into horror because you don't like this, or you're not a hardcore horror person, or like the guardians that like to always go on about fake gamer girls, you're not really into games, whatever. I've known tons and tons of women that are super into games and super good at games. My wife is great at video games. She's always loved video games. She would beat most of these dopes at games. So it's silly, especially for something that so many of us have a passion for, and that is just about having a good time. And of course, there's corporations behind it, and there's always someone trying to sell. So, too many times they listen to whoever the loudest voice is because they want to sell and make money and blah blah blah. I'm glad there's room at the table for everyone. But it's a drag that there's still such toxic, there's still such toxic voices that feel as if they are the ones that should be listened to, and they're the ones that should be catered to, and that they're special somehow. Being angry, being jaded, being bitter, it doesn't make you special. It just makes you exactly like a lot of the rest of the country and the rest of the world, unfortunately. And that's just how it is. So for Far Cry 6. So Far Cry 6, if you're into those kind of games, I'd recommend it. It was a super fun game. I liked the heck out of it to circle back. And the thing is too is there's so many sales, you can wait until there's a sale on it. Like it's a big enough game that it's going to be on sale over and over again. So you can wait and still kind of jump in if you're like, I don't know. It was really fun. A lot of hours of play, different ways to play it. Really, really fun. Fun characters. I very much enjoyed it. So that's about it. This go round. I thought I'd talk about games for a minute. I've been putting off playing Cyberpunk 2077. I'd gotten it for Christmas in 2020, and I'd been putting it off because I knew how many patches it needed, but I might take a look at it sooner than later now because it's had enough time, I think, to maybe be a little fixed up. We'll see, though. You take care. If you want to know anything more about me, want to read any of my blogs, check out my other podcasts, check out any of my 20 books, head to spookychris.com. You can find everything there. All my books are on Amazon. I will talk to you soon, friend. Take care. Bye.